You are listening to the one and only Visionaries Wrestling Network, envisioning excellence and providing your perfect podcast experience.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, 25 years of Triple H capped off with one of the worst segments in SmackDown history. We give you our Wednesday Night Wars recap, that, and we're also into week 2 of our NXT do-over. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast. All right, I've done a little better. Wasn't my best.
No, you just forgot what we called it, that's all.
Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Marks, and welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. your one-night hand. And over there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beers, Zach Pullman. What's going on, Two Beers, Zach?
I'm a fan of that one. That was good.
Yeah? Good.
Yeah, man, I'm standing outside. Like, it's a beautiful day. It's like we're in that 3 weeks of the year, like 3 out of 52, where you don't mind living in the Midwest. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. We have Jason Cornelius Bell over there in U City. What's going on, JCB?
Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 153, chapter 3, verse 14, and the good smart saith, hashtag boo the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Shout out to my girl, Becky Balboa. I love you, babe. Yeah, it has been a nice day all day today. I stepped outside for a little bit, talk to the neighbors, which I usually don't do, but yeah, it's been nice so far. Wrestling's been kind of slow, but you know we're making up for that as we're doing the NXT recap and all that other good stuff. So yeah, I'm ready to talk a little wrestling with you jokers.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun going back and doing the do-over.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Two Beer?
I said it's like a good day to smoke weed outside instead of inside.
There you go.
Oh, and that's different. How?
We are coming at you from, I'm coming at you from my basement here in South City, St. Louis. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Like Jay said, it has been a slow week of wrestling, but that doesn't mean that your BFR boys aren't here to try to give you a little bit of respite from the world outside and what's going on out there. Let's get right to it. But before we do that, Jason, tell us about F&B Eatery.
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton, the home of the best smash burger that you might not heard of. Check out my boy Mike if you're local. He is doing curbside like most other people are doing curbside. Like I tell people all the time, like them on Facebook, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under F&B Eatery. That way you are abreast of any daily specials coming up. Time changes when it comes to hours because unfortunately, with this pandemic, hours can be a little jippity-joppy, so it's something to always keep abreast of. That way you are on top of things. So that way when it's time for you to go bang up that smash burger that you've been craving, you can be there on time, and they are open, ready to go. Check my boy out, F&B Eatery, 3453. Tell them that Banned from Ringside sent you.
Did you say jippy-joppy?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Jippity-joppity.
All right, let's get.
That sounds racist to me.
How's that racist?
Let's get to the 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All my property.
Okay, that's a little racist.
Did you say jippity-joppity? You're on my property?
Yes.
You are my property.
Oh my God! Okay, Jason, what's the one? What's the 1 count?
Yeah, I was about to say, get on him while you fucking with me. 25 years of Triple H opens today's episode. I didn't realize it was 25 years until they announced it. Obviously, I think this is more for a little filler to finish out the SmackDown from Friday night. I honestly, and I'll say it for myself, I didn't necessarily mind it too much. For me, it didn't take Triple H too seriously. And for the guy that has been accused, rightfully so in my opinion, of burying talent on the way to getting up to the top of the WWE roster and then later the corporate ladder, I thought a lot of this was taking shots at him and making fun of him. And I think that's there's something to be said about that. The career of Triple H, you can't deny what it is. In my opinion, I don't have him on a Mount Rushmore or anything like that, but I will have to give the man respect where it is due. One of my favorite matches of all time is him versus Taker at WrestleMania, where they basically didn't say anything to build to the match. They both stood in the ring. They looked at the sign. They made the match. They end up being one of the better matches of the that WrestleMania night, and for that matter, Undertaker's streak when he was going undefeated. I know other people had a problem with it. Me personally, I didn't. For me, like I said, very lighthearted. Hell, they even talked about Shawn Michaels' lazy eye, for God's sake. So, I mean, at that point, that's why I figured it was no holds barred and everything was being laid out to be had, basically a roast, if you will. I didn't have a problem with it. Like I said, I know Bill said he thinks it was absolutely horrible, but for me personally, it was a nice little walk down memory lane. And for a guy that doesn't like, things like memory lanes and shit like that, I didn't necessarily mind it. Like I said, I personally end up laughing more times than not than, kind of rolling my eyes or anything. I didn't realize that Triple H lost 13 times at WrestleMania. Not saying it really matters because he ends up, getting those wins back at a later point, but another story for another time. Like I said, for me personally, and I'll let you guys jump on it, I didn't mind the Triple H 25-year segment. I thought it was done well, and it wasn't he wasn't taking himself seriously. To me, it was the biggest thing coming away from it.
All right, so before we get into just a general discussion of Triple H's place in history, I just want to say I'm not talking about what they did going through Raw and SmackDown, where they did the countdown of the most memorable moments of Triple H's career or whatever that was. I'm talking about specifically the segment with him and Shawn, all inside jokes, two guys that always found themselves a lot funnier than anybody else ever found them, if you ask me. And then Vince's very odd coming out and roasting him and bringing up Katie Vick and then bringing up Bailey, this is your life, and then looking at him and telling him that you love him. And the only person that was laughing was Triple H. It was just such an odd thing. And Zach, I know you don't watch SmackDown. I think you should go out of your way to watch this segment just so you can cringe at it. I don't think that they went around on FaceTime to different people. I don't think that Road Dogg understood that he was live on television. It was probably way high. It was so bad, and I hated it. But that being said, I don't mind seeing the top 10 moments. I don't mind looking back at stuff that happened in wrestling that was either cool or terrible or a combination of the two. I just minded that segment, to be honest. And if you're going to do that segment, you should do it either in front of a crowd or in front of a bunch of other wrestlers, like at a Hall of Fame ceremony, in my opinion. Go ahead, Jason.
If it was that bad, what difference does it make where you put it? Ultimately, what you're saying is this content, no matter how you would have done it, it wouldn't have gotten over with you, which is fine. I understand that. It wasn't really supposed to be, I think, something to, get people behind Triple H or, a tribute to Triple H, because like I said, a lot of it was stuff that was, if not backhanded compliments and insults to itself. I didn't know he did Bailey, This Is Your Life. That was absolutely horrible, and I've always wondered who did that shit. Finding out it was Triple H takes a little rust off, some of the things he's done. Katie Vick, enough said. So,
I'm not even sure if that's what Vince was saying, though. It was if that's what Vince was saying, that it was Triple H's idea to do Bailey, This Is Your Life, or that he wrote the segment or something, that would be one thing. It was completely unclear what Vince was even saying, though.
Okay, well then that's the way I took it. Okay, neither here nor there. Like I said, for me it worked because, like I said, I expected this, kind of whole pomp and circumstance kind of thing where it made Triple H to be, that dude again. Trust me, we get it. We know who you are. I'm not going to sit up here and take away the man's shine. But for me, like I said, for him not taking this thing seriously for Stephanie to come in and basically run down HBK. That's the stuff that I was looking for. Even Vince, as weird as it was, and I'm not going to sit up here and say it wasn't a little off, it worked for me.
Let's get Two Beer in here. Two Beer, when you think about Triple H's place in wrestling history or in the annals of wrestling, what do you think his legacy is as of right now? Because 25 years, I know he's not done. I mean, I know he's got tons of time left, but 25 years is a long time.
Yeah, I can't believe he's only 25 years old. That's crazy. But I mean, I've been watching him since I feel like I've been watching him since a kid. So I don't know, weird. But yeah, like I think if not for NXT, his legacy would be way different. Because I mean, he's definitely changed quite a bit. There's like a dogfight happening right here, by the way. So
nice.
But if not for NXT, his legacy would be much, much different. Because, like you guys said, he was kind of that golden boy who was like talented, had charisma, but like he wasn't like always super fun to watch in the ring. And he's not like one of the greatest of all time as far as like workers go, regardless of like what kind of story they want to, what kind of spin they want to put on it. But I mean, he's definitely like, he's a good wrestler. He's a great personality, and he has a really great mind for the business, obviously. But the NXT thing is where I think that's where his legacy exists. DX is cool. It was what it was. I say cool, but it definitely had its issues, but it was very memorable, right? Very hot act. And I don't know, like I was never like a huge Triple H guy. Like I love DX, but it's because I was like a big Shawn Michaels guy. And I was also 12. Like, I mean, that's
right.
The target audience, right? So I don't know, for me, I did mean to watch this, so I would have liked to have seen some of these moments, especially because there was a gap in my wrestling watching, like from like late teens to like, you know, late 20s, like just a huge gap that I haven't completely filled. So Bo Giesman texted me about it, and I was like, oh, I need to watch this. And then I just didn't. So sorry, guys.
So I think that Triple H's, when I started watching, when I flipped off of WCW in college and I got into WWE, it was like 99. And the way that I saw Triple H, and the reason that I did like Triple H, was that he really felt like a straight man against The Rock and Triple H, or The Rock and Austin, I should say, where The Rock and Austin were these huge personalities that could get anything over. Triple H was such a stick in the mud and such a bad guy with his leather jacket and just, you know, his overall demeanor, which was ultimately pretty dorky and kind of like a, I don't know, like a biker badass is what he was supposed to be. I thought he was good for that because you can't have The Rock versus Austin all the time. Sometimes you got to throw in somebody that's a little bit stiffer, a little bit less of a personality, and I thought Triple H was good for that. Then...
Yeah, you know what? You're totally... Not to interrupt you, but you are totally right about that, and I just want to point out how ironic that is, because that is so not his personality. Like, he is a genuine delight, like, now. Like, whenever he actually gets on... He's like a breath of fresh air whenever he's on TV, because he gives zero fucks, and he just says what he wants, and he's funny. You know, like he is nothing like his actual character that made him famous. Like it's pretty weird.
Jason, what do you think?
No, I agree with totally. In this scenario, like I said, I've never really had a huge affinity for Triple H personally. He was who he was. I just kind of, along the course of time, you know, there was times where I didn't care for him. I thought there was times I absolutely thought there was a possibility of what was to be, you know, when he had the run with Stone Cold and they became tag team champions, and then he ended up getting hurt. He tore his quad or whatever and was out for like 8 months. I always wondered where was that going to eventually go. You knew they were going to end up breaking up because the title was going to be the thing that broke them up, but getting there would have been half the fun. So for me, it's always part of what could have been with Triple H, but we know what is with Triple H. He's one of the best that's done it. Like I said, not on my Mount Rushmore, honestly, but if he's on anybody else's Mount Rushmore, I don't have a problem with it per se. He can be argued as one of the best that WWE has to offer. But like I said, at the end of the day, I kind of agree with you guys. For me, it's always, when I think DX, I think Shawn first, Triple H second. And that's always kind of the way it's going to be with me. That's kind of the reason why I don't think he's as revered in my mind versus in other people's mind. He's good. He's great. He's just not HOF in my opinion of Mount Rushmore. I can't bump him off my Mount Rushmore. Jericho would have an argument before that.
I bet he's not on anybody's Mount Rushmore. I mean, nobody has Triple H in the top 4, do they? That would be shocking to me if somebody would have Triple H in the top 4. I think
a Venn diagram of like really hardcore Sons of Anarchy fans and WWE fans is right there in the middle.
He does seem like he's in Forgotten Sons, or like he was like 20 years too early for Forgotten Sons. I always, when I think of DX, I think of Triple H as being the main DX member, and I think about Shawn Michaels secondary, just because Shawn Michaels has such a legacy, even if you leave DX out. Like, it's a cherry on top for Shawn Michaels' career, whereas it's a really huge part of Triple H's career, right?
Yeah, he also left, like, Triple H kind of, like, holding the ball because, he had his, like, issues or whatever, and he was gone for a while, so Triple H kind of held it up, kept it going while he was gone.
Jason, what's your favorite Triple H match? It's that him versus Taker, their first WrestleMania match?
No, it was the second one where I think was Shawn Michaels was the referee. The ending, going up the ramp, I didn't need any of that. I didn't need any of you hugging, but
where Michaels super kicked Undertaker in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is a good match.
Just like, I'm like, oh man, this is it. The streak's gonna come to an end, and it just swayed back and forth to where you really didn't know for once if the streak was going to come to an end. It was like the closest thing that I could think of without obviously Brock Lesnar. But this match was like that match where I was like, okay, this is it. The streak might actually come to an end, and obviously it didn't. But I think, like I said, the build to that, the whole shebang, that's my favorite Triple H match.
Zach, do you have a favorite Triple H match?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've gone back and watched some that, like, I missed. The triple threat with Benoit and HBK.
Yeah, that's mine.
Just right on. I think the one that I think I was still watching, like, whenever I was, like, younger, my favorite one would got to be, he did, like, a Hell in a Cell with Mick Foley. And I think it was a retirement match for Foley. So that was kind of apropos considering Hell in a Cell and all with him. But I think those would be up there for sure.
He's also been, and maybe this is just because he was so, I guess, high on the card during the Attitude Era. He's also been in some of the most cringeworthy moments in wrestling history. I mean, he's probably got 5 out of the top 10. If you count Katie Vick, which for those of you that might not follow wrestling like us who may be listening, Katie Vick was apparently a teenager that had gotten in the car accident with Kane when Kane was a teenager, and she died in the car accident. And Triple H, to try to get under Kane's skin, went to a fake funeral home, went to a coffin in a Kane mask, and pretended to have sex with the corpse of a dead teenage girl.
You gotta stop, man. I'm standing out here outside in public and I'm getting hard. You need to quit it.
I mean, I haven't said it out loud in a long time. Because Katie Vick, I mean, when you say it, everybody knows what it means if you're a wrestling fan. But it is outrageous that happens. Just outrageous.
Yeah, that obviously not very well thought through. But the more and more we see, at least I'll say this for myself, I won't speak for you guys. Like, the more and more I see stuff about past WWE talent, what was it? Dark Side of the Ring was on the other night, and it was about the David Schultz smack of the reporter or whatever. Vince basically is the same person then that he is in the 90s that he is now. You know, somehow, and I'm not sure how it worked, but he had to sign off on this Katie Vick thing.
Well, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, that right there, that's a little bit of an insight of what you're kind of dealing with when it comes to Vince. His humor, what he thinks, you know, will strike a nerve, whatever the case may be.
Well, it was the Attitude Era. He all attention was good attention, you know. Triple H also drugged Stephanie McMahon, roofied her in the storyline, kayfabe style, and roofied her and married her in a drive-through wedding chapel in Las Vegas.
Hashtag consent.
Yeah, I know.
Man, we going to hell.
No, Triple H might be. I ain't, at least. Well, Zach, I mean, some of the shit that Zach says, you know. But, I mean, just real cringeworthy. Just, it's unbelievable that it happened stuff. And that was 21 years ago. So, you know, he's obviously an all-timer. He's obviously, let me just say that my favorite Triple H moment of all time, and I've never been able to find it, happened on a Raw. And if anybody out there can find this for me, like the date of the Raw, I would love it. It was during the McMahon-Helmsley, what they call him, the McMahon-Helmsley regime?
The faction or whatever.
But anyway, all the McMahons and Triple H were in the ring, and they were cutting a promo, and they started kind of bickering amongst each other. Like, even Linda was out there. And they were all on the same team, and Linda started kind of mouthing off at Triple H, and Triple H got ready to pedigree Linda, and then Shane came across nowhere and punched Triple H, and it wasn't a heel turn or a face turn. It was just it was something very realistic that would if that was really happening in the ring. Of course, Shane wouldn't let Triple H pedigree his mother. So I always like that. It was I always think about it. I've tried to find it. Trust me. Some drunken high nights up by myself. I have tried to find that segment, but I can't.
I can only imagine what kind of results you get whenever you type in Triple H pedigrees Linda.
Nobody ever talks about it, man.
Found it. You just get distracted from all those other fan art and fan fiction.
Man, wrestling. As weird as wrestling is, it used to be even weirder.
That's true.
So let's get on to that. 2 counts.
1, 2, 3.
2 beer. What's the 2 count?
2 count. Pretty general. We're gonna do the Wednesday Night Wars. Pretty nice little Wednesday of wrestling, all things considered. I think AEW had one of the better dynamites, I feel like, that they've had, and not just since this pandemic and empty arena stuff. I actually just really liked the show. I thought it was just a really good show, regardless. So, opened up with video package Cody and Darby Allin, and this is a feud that I really enjoy. And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but to me, it feels like this is going to go the direction of a Okada-Sonata feud, right? These guys are going to fight for a long time, and Darby always looks real good, just like Sonata always looks real good against Okada. And the whole story is going to be eventually Darby's going to get that win. But it was not tonight, or it was not last night. He really creative, fun finish. I don't know what you guys thought of it, but I really liked it. Coffin drop into a roll-up. Really cool. And those guys, they just put together a fantastic match. They both have mega charisma, even with an empty arena. And Darby's such a talent. He's just really Cody has the star power, and Darby is just going to be like so much more than he is now, and he's a total joy to watch at the moment. But yeah, Cody went over and advances to the finals of the tournament. So what do you guys think of that?
I thought the match was really good. The finish, just, I'm sorry, I'm not even trying to be contrarian on this, but I thought about Bill when this happened. So just moments beforehand, Darby kicks out of a crossroads. Once again, a finishing move. Okay, no big deal. I don't necessarily have a problem with, people getting kicked out of finishers. That's Bill's thing. Here's my problem with it. When, for that final part of the match where Darby falls on the coffin drop, okay, so how is it Cody is going to absorb this finisher and then be cognizant enough to say, oh, yeah, his shoulders are right here. Let me roll his shoulders up, and then have the energy to hold him down for the 3 count. I get it. It was supposed to be a creative finish. I thought the execution didn't work for it. The logic of it doesn't make sense. You're not supposed to get a finisher and then be cognizant enough to take the next step for a pinfall to win the match.
Right. You got to sell it for a little while.
Something. And I get it. A lot of people, kind of took me to task when I said I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like the thought process. I get it. But then Cody has to absorb the coffin drop. And then if you want to have him roll him up at a later point, fine. Knock yourself out. But it can't be right there, right then. That's where I thought it took a little bit off from the match, the finish itself. The match itself was great. Like you said, I agree with the Okada-Sonata analogy. They're going to fight until Darby wins that one big one. Right now, it ain't that one big one. We will find up until the end.
All right. Two-Beer, what's next?
Let's just go with the other big match on there. There's some other fun stuff, but
can I say something else about the Darby Allin Cody match, and maybe something else about the coffin drop? Sure. It's a shitty finisher. Okay, go ahead.
You ain't shit. I was waiting for some hard-hitting analysis.
I tell you what, that analysis is harder hitting than the coffin drop.
Oh, man, hell no. Keep it going.
That's only because Darby Allin's like 130 pounds.
Yeah, I know. And he's also landing on the guy with his back. That's neither here nor there, though.
I dig it.
I know you do.
Just more Darby Allin hate from Bill.
Yeah.
Old man yelling at the good-looking clouds. So the other big match was the other semifinal, Dustin Rhodes and Lance Archer. And like, if you would have told me these guys are going to go like 25 minutes, I'd have been like, that's going to suck. Because, I mean, these long empty arena matches are just terrible. This match was awesome. There was juice. There was Lance Archer did his moonsault, old school moonsault rope walk spot that is amazing to see. Juice Dustin. There was brawling. These guys just really, really worked. And Dustin made Archer look great while still getting in a bunch of offense because he's Dustin Rhodes and he is a legit badass and veteran. So it was not like a squash, but in the end, the right guy went over, and it all builds toward this final match. And it totally makes sense because we've been building Cody and Lance Archer since Jake the Snake came out and did his promo when we had fans. So I just thought this was they were the perfect bookends of the show. And there was a lot of fun stuff in the middle. New Bubbly Bunch. Oh, my God. It was silly, but my God, was this thing entertaining. And the MJF promo and just Chris Jericho on content throughout. This was a fucking great show, guys. I'm sorry. If you haven't seen it, just go watch it. Like, you will be entertained. Even the squash matches were entertaining. Like, this is great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought it was a really entertaining show also. Moxley cut a fun promo. The Bubbly Bunch.
Oh, yeah.
The Bubbly Bunch was out of this world cool. MJF continues to do his thing. They made Scorpio Sky look great in that sit-down vignette thing that they had going on. Even Best Friends versus Sabian and Havoc for a match that didn't have a lot of story behind it was a real fun match. They're doing real work on these empty arena shows. Getting back to the Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes match, to piggyback off what Zach was saying, these guys, I looked it up. These guys are at a combined age of 94 years old. And yeah, Goldust just turned 51. Lance Archer is 43. And they put on a burner of a match. That was a really fun match with two guys doing work. It never was boring. I can only imagine how hot the Dynamite crowd would have been for it in front of a crowd, which is me focusing on the bad. I need to stop doing that. I understand, but it was a legit great match. Jason, thoughts?
No, it sets up, moving forward, Cody versus Lance Archer. I thought, just not even delving on the Cody match anymore. Lance Archer, they did what they needed to do, make him look like this big monster heel. Like Super said, gave Dustin enough offense to where he looked effective. There's a chance that you can slow down, Lance Archer, but ultimately he's going to prevail. So that's, like I said, moving forward, that's going to give us 3 weeks of hopefully good promos coming from Jake, some build coming from Cody, and then the match at Double or Nothing for the TNT title. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really solid match. I'm pretty sure I know who's going to go over at this point, but we can save that for another time.
Well, it would be bad business if Cody went over.
Well, you said it, I didn't. Honestly, I don't think there was anything I had a problem with. At this point, it's like nitpicky shit. When now they're calling like Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee. I said it on Twitter. I was like, man, they ain't even trying to hide the fact that they trying to troll Vince McMahon at this point. They just doing the damn thing. More power to them. If you're going to lean into the angle, you might as well, get all the lean you could get out of it. So
he should do that Vince McMahon strut when he walks to the ring.
Man,
okay,
I was just going to say the same thing.
See, now y'all just...
Did you say it'd be bad business if Cody went over or didn't go over?
I'd say it'd be bad business if Cody went over Lance Archer.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I totally expect him to win this title.
Oh, hell no.
You guys are so wrong about that.
I totally did. No, why do you expect him to win the title?
Because he's fucking Cody Rhodes and he's the biggest star besides Chris Jericho in the entire company. And he can't wrestle for the main title. I think it would be outrageous if you didn't put this title on him. And plus it just makes the prestige of the title. Lance Archer's a big boy and he's impressive, but Cody Rhodes is like AEW Dynasty here, and they need to cement this title as a legitimate title, not just a mid-card title. And Cody Rhodes is certainly not a mid-carder, and that's the best way to do it. Sure, Lance can win it from him eventually, but Cody Rhodes got to be the first champ.
Well, I mean, is this not a secondary title? Is this not a mid-card title? I mean, I get what you're saying, that you want the first champion to be, memorable, legendary, whatever. But I mean, damn, the promotion has been going on for more than not even a year yet. I mean, how much more legendary or, whatever word you're using to sentence, I mean, let's just keep it for what it is. Cody can be a champion any place, anytime, okay? I don't think it's a necessity for him to be champion here. For me, this is about beating Cody down more. We just talked about New Japan. To me, this is New Japan booking. Cody is striving to be champion. That vignette he did last week where, it's about perseverance and all that other good shit. What's another good way to keep Cody's story going? By having him lose this match too. So now, not only can he not go for the biggest title, he just lost the secondary title. He doesn't have a tag team partner. So, I mean, that's where I'm going with it. I see what you're saying with it, but I don't think it's a necessity that Cody Rhodes has to be the champion. I
mean, I see what Zach is saying also. The reason why I think it would be bad business is because if you're going to have Cody become the first, are they calling it the TNT Championship? That's what it's called, right?
Yep.
Not TV championship, TNT championship. Anyway, if they're going to have Cody win the first TNT championship, then have him go against Dustin in the title. Like, why have Lance Archer? Why even bring up Lance Archer just to have him lose to Cody? Because then you take away all of his heat. That's why I was saying to be bad business. If you can have Cody make a guy, because Cody's already made in the eyes of the AEW fans. So you could have Cody make a guy by losing to Lance Archer and having Lance Archer be the first TNT championship. No?
You could. I just don't think that a loss to Cody Rhodes like takes away Archer's heat. Like, he's still gonna like run through people, run roughshod, because that's how they're booking him. I mean, they're booking him super strong. I just don't think a loss to Cody hurts. I mean, the top babyface in the promotion, like one of the top baby faces in the world, I don't think it hurts him. Like, I totally understand. Like, if they want to do a long-term booking, which they're about, they show us that they're about that long-term booking. If they're going to do that, like Jason said, and that's going to be like this long-term story, that's pretty cool. But I feel like, just to me, when you look at it from a long-term perspective, when you look back on it, I feel like it would be that much more memorable, for Cody Rhodes to win it and be that first champion.
What would be more memorable championship for him to win? The TNT title or the AEW title?
Well, I mean, like, the AEW title is the prize, but I mean, like, in their storyline, he already made it so that he can't wrestle for that title, and like kind of against Tony Khan's wishes. I mean, like, there's ways to like book around that, but like then you just ruin all your stipulations. Like, we talked about that.
Yeah, we've litigated that on this show before. That, of course, the AEW title would be bigger. I think I see what Zach's saying. I don't know. But
all I'm saying is, let's not sit up here and say that just because Cody said it, it's going to stay in stone. Things change, okay?
Yeah, we talked about that.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not going to sit up here and say that a year from now, 2 years from now, that step still remains. Somewhere down the line, this will come up again. God forbid if MJF becomes champion, you don't think that there's going to be some kind of way that there could be a rematch between these two again? I get where you're going with it, but for me, you're going to do it right. Have Archer go over, have him be your mid-card champion, because essentially for what he is in AEW, he's a mid-card guy. Have him be running the rush shot over the mid-card, so that way when you have somebody else that's ready to take over that, he gets the rub from Lance Archer, you move Lance Archer up. That way now he's a main event guy. Then you can have them compete for the title, whoever the champion may be.
Now we see what would happen if the three of us had to book a territory together. Two Beer, why don't you tell us what happened on NXT?
NXT there's another tournament going on in NXT. It is a cruiserweight tournament for the interim, the vacated title because of Jordan Devlin being unable to travel because of COVID-19. So this ongoing storyline with Drake Maverick, who ekes out a win versus Tony Nese, which we talked about this last week. It is weird as hell to me that they're doing this as like a storyline.
Talk about leaning into it.
Real life. Yeah, no doubt. I don't know what the end result is. Regardless of the end result, I mean, I don't want to see the guy get fired. I don't want to see the guy get released. But if in storyline he's able to like earn his spot back, then what about everybody else? What about Curtis Axel that just got fired today? Where's their opportunity to earn their spots back? It's just really, I feel like they should have ignored it and pushed it under the rug. But I talked about that last week, so I mean, I'm not gonna like keep hammering that point. But so Drake Maverick's still alive. And we also had El Hijo del Fantasma versus Swerve Scott. I thought that match would be better, just like putting those names together in my head from what I've seen those guys, but it was fine. We had a Dominic Dijakovic promo, which was okay. Kind of led into the Damian Priest versus Keith Lee match, which again was kind of just okay. I think the best thing on the show for me was maybe it's just because I'm a Johnny Mark, but Johnny Gargano being like, totally like annoying cheerleader for Candice LeRae. Like, he was so good at it. Like, it was like it was the funniest point in the show. And NXT also gave us like a point where we normally see this in main roster in AEW. There's actually some like pro wrestling stuff and not just like the in-ring stuff where we had Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher, which maybe that would have went over in front of a live crowd.
I don't
Matt
think
Riddle
so.
was trying his hardest, but you know, there was some funny lines, and Matt Riddle has a ton of charisma, but man, that thing died.
Oh, it sucked.
Overall, it was a pretty average show. Like, there wasn't anything on this that I loved or hated. I was fine watching it. I even watched NXT first this week because I was like, I'm going to do this just in case AEW is really good, and then I don't want to shit on NXT because it wasn't as good. I watched this first, and I was like, that wasn't that great. And then I watched AEW, and I was like, whoa, bonkers. So
I'll kind of piggyback on what Two Beer was going with this. Charlotte and Mia had a decent match, nothing great. I think the one biggest thing that I took away from this week's NXT was what's getting ready to happen. You know, you got Johnny Gargano and Dijakovic next week. You got 2 title matches next week. I think this was almost designed as the bridge episode into the bigger episode, which is next week. But neither here nor there. I don't have a problem with it. Like you said, it was just fine. There was nothing really stand out about this episode. Drake Maverick, I guess, is the one thing that I kind of have a problem with. I'm with you on this, Two Beer. It's just it doesn't sit right, because if he loses, then he's been on the show for 3 weeks. This could have been somebody else having their chance to get on and try to get themselves over. If he wins, then it's really weird, because now I'm feeling like I just got worked, which is, I'm not saying God knows this happened before in the past, but now I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, I feel like I'm really gullible for letting these jokers work me into this shit. And where does it go from here? Does he actually, is he going to beat Jordan Devlin? Which that's where I'm going to have a real problem with this, because look, I appreciate the Drake Maverick story, but at a certain point, he would have to win, and then Jake Atlas would have to lose twice for him to win the block. That's what this is boiling down to, because Atlas holds the tiebreaker over Drake Maverick. So Atlas has to lose twice. I don't know. I got a hard time with that, because that really leads me to believe that they planned this from the beginning. They had Drake Maverick go out, have this tearful fucking post on social media. That means we all fell for it, and now on the back end, they're going to set him up to have this run. I don't like it. I just
couldn't disagree with you guys more about the Drake Maverick thing. I think the Drake Maverick thing is intriguing television, and like something. It's, if anything else, they're finding a way to try to work the social media era crowd. At least it's something different. I mean, it's not something that we've ever seen before, and in wrestling, that's kind of hard to pull off. So I'm there for it. I mean, either way, yeah, it sucks. Of course it sucks when people get fired, and it sucks if Drake Maverick gets fired after this, and it sucks if Atlas doesn't get to get his push, because Drake Maverick's going to get his push. But if they're working us, fucking work me, baby. That's what I want. I'm a fucking mark. Work me. That's what I fucking, come on, dude. Yeah, and also, I think we kind of glossed over. I thought Damian Priest had a really good promo. I think that the last couple promos that we've seen him cut have been exceptional. He didn't have that gear when he was in Ring of Honor, and he hasn't had that gear. And I think that you can tell that he's been working at it. Also, I think Jason forgot to mention, next week we have Io Shirai versus Flair. I know you said that. We have the Dijakovic, friend of me of the show, versus Johnny Gargano. And then we have Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream. There's 2 title matches in Dijakovic versus Gargano next week.
No, I said that.
Oh, did you say all 3?
Yeah, well, I said the 2 title matches for sure. Dijakovic, I don't know. Well, they are for wrestling next week.
I don't really listen when you're talking that much.
I mean, look, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not expecting you to listen to me. I just find it ironic that NXT's putting that show up against AEW's quote unquote live show.
Yeah, they're going live. Anyway, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to it though. Hopefully those matches.
Yeah, for sure.
I still think they need to pump in crowd noise.
Dude, AEW is doing fine. I think they're doing better than any of the other shows that are doing quote unquote live shows.
Well, yeah. What do the other 3 shows have in common? They're all WWE. Yeah, they're doing better because it at least kind of sounds like they have a crowd. Like, you have to have a crowd in wrestling.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And that's why I think I'm adapting to the no crowd better than you guys are. If you're telling a story and I'm invested in the story, I don't necessarily need the crowd to get behind it. It's like New Japan. I don't need a commentary to get behind New Japan. Put a match on, you can put it in Japanese, and I can get into it. So that's not the issue. So I think the issue different. For me is
different.
The issue is content. There's the AEW content is for you and for Zach. You're getting more invested in it for whatever reason versus what is happening on NXT. Now, if next week, if they bring out 2 good matches, 2 title matches, and Gargano and Dijakovic, and we already know that 2 Beers already going to be coming for that. I had the first cum joke this week. That's crazy. And you guys still don't like it, then there's a bigger issue. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think it's just keep things in perspective. I think it's really about the content. AEW is speaking to you more than NXT is for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, that's not the way I would characterize it. I wouldn't say that AEW is speaking to me more. I'm saying that it's better to watch at this point. It doesn't mean that I'm not invested in Tommaso Ciampa and Cross. It doesn't mean I'm not invested in Dijakovic and Gargano, because I'm certainly invested in that. It's just better to watch when there's an audience. Like, I don't know. I know I sound like a broken record on this, and maybe I just sound like a complainer, and please tell me if I do. But it's just, it's the elephant in the room, and I can't stop bringing it up just because that's why we started this NXT do-over thing, because we've been talking about it for a long time, and because I don't want to watch wrestling with no crowd all week. If I'm going to get in my weekly fill of wrestling, I'm going to go back and watch some old shit that, you know, had a couple thousand people sitting around and cheering.
Yeah, I'm with you because, WWE's like McDonald's fries and AEW's like Belgian frites. They're both way better with ketchup. So,
yeah, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's get to that 3 count.
2, 3.
All right, in part 2 of our NXT Do-Over series, where we are going back, if you missed last week, we are going back through every single NXT TakeOver. Last week was NXT Arrival, which was before they had the name takeover. So this week, we are doing the first official NXT TakeOver from May 29th, 2014. Jason, what do you think you were doing May 29th, 2014?
Oh, shit.
I got a good idea.
Where was I was working. God damn.
I was just going to say you worked and then you probably got high and drunk.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's what I did.
That's a safe bet. Yeah, that's a safe bet.
It's a Saturday night in 2014. Yeah, dude, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. I don't remember watching this live. I probably watched it after the fact. I usually equate what I was doing with where I was working with. But yeah, 2014, yeah, that's a safe bet. I was probably getting drunk somewhere.
2 Beer Zag, where were you doing?
I mean, I was bar somewhere, all night, not watching NXT.
I was not watching this. I had never seen this before. So, like I said, this was the very first NXT TakeOver, the main event, and we'll get to it later, but just to run down the card, it was Adrian Neville, you might know him as Pac, against Tyson Kidd. You might know him as retired due to injury. For the NXT Championship, Charlotte versus Natalya, Ric Flair and Bret Hart at ringside for the the vacant NXT Women's Championship. Tyler Breeze versus Sami Zayn for the number one contender match for the championship. The Ascension versus El Local and Kalisto. El Local looked like he'd been eating some El Local food. And
God damn it.
Adam Rose faced Camacho, who is in New Japan now, better known as
Tagagoa.
Yeah, Camacho. He's like that guy that's in Training Day as the Mexican, but he's also in Three Kings as the Iraqi guy. It's like, I guess this guy can play anything, you know? I'm going to start off with what I thought was the best match of the card, and you guys can agree or disagree with me. I thought the best match of the card was Charlotte versus Natalya, which you could tell it was early. You can tell this is when they were still calling women divas, because when Charlotte gets up to do her moonsault off the top turnbuckle, the commentators were shocked. They just couldn't believe that a woman would do this thing. Thoughts on that match? Two Beer Zach.
Yeah, absolutely best match on the show. Pretty wild to see, because I actually meant to say this last week on the do-over, but whenever they showed Rick and Charlotte in the crowd, I didn't even recognize Charlotte right away. Like, it was crazy. Like, it's not that long ago, but, like, she looks different. Now, in the ring, she looks very similar, albeit a little greener. Like, Natalya was definitely the veteran in the scenario and really kind of carried Charlotte to a great match.
Man, Natalya looked awesome, though, too.
Oh, and that ring gear? Bring it back, Natty. Shit.
Well, not in terms of hotness, although they both looked gorgeous. But in terms of wrestling, though, Natalya was great.
Yeah, she really was. Like, she's a really good wrestler. She doesn't get she gets kind of short shrift as far as, like, even whenever we talk about really great women's wrestlers, like, you don't really hear enough about her. And I think it's just like she's that kind of built-in status in WWE. She's always going to have a job.
She was definitely kind of the bridge between the Divas era and the women's revolution, if that's what you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like, because she was in the Divas era and she was jobbing out, but she would get some of the ladies to have decent matches, but she was the workhorse. Oh yeah,
you could definitely see that. And that's just like kind of how she's characterized. You know, she's got that good hand characterization, which you know she is. But this was a good match. It's the only match on the show for me that broke 4 stars, and I rated a flat 4. It was a good match.
That's exactly what I have it at. Jason, what are your thoughts on
it? Interesting, because as everybody knows, I'm a huge Ric Flair mark. So to watch them being Flair and Charlotte's corner, Bret Hart and Natty's corner, that to me was always the interesting sidebar. You could tell that Charlotte was green, and I agree with Two Beard. Physically, she looks different in the ring. The mannerisms, how she works, you know, basically she's basically the same, minus a move or two here and there. You know, no figure 8 to end the match, but she did like the figure 4 headlocks, things like that, where, you know, her move set has kind of evolved a little bit. I didn't think this was the best match of the night. I thought it was the best story coming in. I gave it 3 stars just for the simple fact that Charlotte was green enough that you can tell that there were mistakes made. Natty, obviously, like you guys are always saying, was the workhorse. Great analogy. She's the bridge from the Divas to the Women's Revolution, obviously in both eras, and one person that you can always be able to count on in a Money in the Bank situation or something along those lines where you have multiple women. Elimination Chamber, Natty is going to be that foundation of the match. You know, you can kind of depend on her. I think this is kind of a little disappointing where even though it was the NXT title, looking back on it, this is one of the few times where maybe Natty could have got a run with the title, but neither here nor there. I thought the match was good. It just wasn't my favorite match of the night.
Just a flat 3, huh?
It's fine. It's not a knock against Natty. It just Charlotte looked green, and you could tell that she looked green in spots.
So both of you guys have said that Charlotte looked green, and I would say that she looked greener than she was when she had that. I mean, when did she have that crazy? Did we have the podcast when her and Sasha kept trading wins back and forth, or was that just like 2016? I don't think we had the podcast. Did we?
I want to say we had the podcast.
I mean, she looked great.
I was pretty blitzed for like that whole point in my life. I don't remember anything.
I was going to say, because that sounds like Hell in the Cell. And now I'm 99% sure that's in that I win, you win type scenario where Charlotte and Sasha were trading off wins. I want to say we're doing the podcast.
All right.
Hell in the Cell is one of their big matches. Charlotte won that match. I know. I'm 90% sure we were doing the podcast.
All right, JCB, what was your favorite match on the card?
Believe it or not, I'm going Sami Zayn versus Tyler Breeze. Even though that it was a late de facto number 1 contenders match, I thought the match itself, the quality of the match, was better than anything else that I saw on the card. I gave it 3.5 stars. The card itself wasn't necessarily great. So that was kind of a problem to begin with. So certain things really just stood out. I thought, especially for Tyler Breeze, this was, once again, thinking of what could have been. Not saying he could have been the champion, but if there was a secondary title, let's say like the North American title, this would have been a perfect spot for Tyler Breeze to come into it. But I thought that this was the match that was the best of the match quality. The storyline, the build to it wasn't exactly better. I like Charlotte versus Natty as the better build. It made me get into the match more in an emotional way, just for match quality. What was the better match in my mind? Sami versus Tyler to me was the better match in my mind.
And what's your star rating on it?
3.5.
That is exactly what I gave it. Maybe I'm nicer. Maybe I'm nicer than JCB. Like, this is Jason's hard on this. Zach, what do you think about Breeze? What do you think about Breeze versus Zayn?
Yeah, it was a solid match. I definitely enjoyed it. I really like seeing Sami Zayn actually work again. And same thing with like Tyler Breeze. Like, he's gotten kind of his own little renaissance, but I feel like a lot of Sami Zayn that I've seen, and granted he was hurt for a little while, but Vince, like, he's a great talker, but Vince just like slots him in as only that. Like, his whole gimmick, like through the indies and like into NXT, was that he might not be in the main event, but he was gonna have the best match on the show. That was the whole thing about El Generico. Like, it was a total play on the fact that he was anything but generic.
Right.
And it just kind of baffles me, like a lot of things on the main roster do. But these guys, yeah, I mean, it was just like a really solid match. Coincidentally, I gave it that exact same star rating, 3.5. So
we're all on the same page about that. The reason that I gave a slightly smaller score to that than I did Flair Natty is it took a while to get going. Now, listen, the last 5 minutes of that match were crazy, and they were great. I might have to reassess the way I'm giving these star ratings, because I'm doing exactly what I vowed not to do last week, which is start off too high, because I'm not going higher than 5, guys. And one of these days, we're going to get to Sami Zayn versus Nakamura in Nakamura's first American match in NXT. And I can't be saying that that's only one full star higher than Flair versus Natty. Like, so I might have to start rethinking this, but I'm not going to start doing it right now. So let's move over to the main event. We have Adrian Neville versus Tyson Kidd. Thoughts on that, Zach?
This is the first time I ever saw Tyson Kidd wrestle, because by the time I got back into wrestling, Samoa Joe had... I shouldn't say it that way. He had been injured.
Oh, that careless Samoa Joe.
Yeah, like it's not like Samoa Joe.
Just
Samoa
known
Joe
for hurting
like
guys.
Yeah, like
we going down.
Yeah, Samoa Joe is definitely not Nia Jax. Like Samoa Joe's mega talented, safe worker. It's just like people get hurt in this profession. Like it's just how it is. And so eventually that is what happens. What's funny is I had also kind of forgotten that he was married to Natalya. They kind of look alike, which is weird. They look like they could be siblings.
I've
And
always
maybe,
thought the
like,
same thing, and I've always thought they're like the same size also.
Yeah, I feel like, they could be like actual twins, which, I mean, maybe they should do Pornhub Premium. I mean, that seems to be like the pattern. Like you can't Google
Sure.
like any kind of porn without it being incest. So I mean, maybe they just lean into it.
I mean,
don't know.
I don't even have a stepmom. God, I wish I had a stepmom.
Can't believe I had the first porn joke this week. I'm so disappointed in myself.
But regardless, like it was like solid. Neville, you can already tell like he came from Dragon Gate, and outside of like New Japan Dojo, maybe not even that. Maybe like they might even be like equal, like those as far as like developmental programs. Like they are like neck and neck as far as rigorous and turning out phenomenal workers. And Neville was already great. Like he's gotten better as far as like character work and stuff, but like he's Neville here. He's a babyface Neville, which is weird to me for the most part because I hardly ever saw that. But he is definitely every bit the like worker, athletic, as far as athleticism goes. But I didn't love this match, maybe because I just didn't feel like anything was at stake. I didn't know the result, but even then I didn't expect Tyson Kidd to win this title from Adrian Neville, because Adrian Neville was just so over. And Tyson Kidd, even though he seems to have like obviously a great mind for the business because he's on the payroll as a producer, and whenever you kind of read and find out like, oh, that was a Tyson Kidd match, you're like, oh, no wonder I liked it so much. Like he's really good at what he does. This match didn't so much do it for me, and it was very underwhelming for a main event in my opinion.
Is Tyson Kidd the last one to be trained in the Heart Dungeon?
He was the very last, yeah.
Yeah. Jason, what you think about this match?
Yeah, I was going to say, looking back on it, I couldn't really believe that Tyson Kidd was going to actually win this match either. I agree with everything that Two Beers said. Neville was just too over at the time, and it's kind of hard to even invest in the he's nothing more than Natty's husband kind of deal, because essentially that's all he was coming up to this. Good worker, but just not believable enough to make me think that he was going to win the match. The match was good, not great. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm not sure if it really deserved that third star or not, but that's neither here nor there.
I gave it 3 stars also. Zach, what you have it at?
2.75, 2 3/4.
So a couple other things. We don't really have to give star ratings of these. Ascension versus basically what was Lucha House Party with a fat Unico was
I'm not sure. I can't remember what move he did, but he botched the move.
No, he was doing it. He was trying to do a springboard. He was trying to go off the middle rope, and he was trying to go off the top rope, and he missed it and barely got the middle rope and got bailed out because he barely got the middle rope. That dude's probably working the fry side of Fridays right now. It's weird to see.
Actually, nobody's working the fry side of Fridays.
Very good point. Good point.
Yeah, good point.
It's weird to see Ascension so over with the crowd.
Yeah, they're like a worse Road Warriors. Like,
it was just such a strange idea. I mean, I understand those guys are supposed to be pretty cool dudes, so I hope they're doing okay. this was one of Rusev's first appearances. And I love that he squashed Mojo Rawley. I was just so tickled by it. And I actually think that Rusev's entrance music used the audio from the promo that he cut in the middle of the ring because it was so similar to what always goes, Rusev Crush, Rusev Machka. So that was cool.
No, I was going to say, it was very similar. I will say this. Both Rusev and Mojo were in the Arrival show beforehand. Rusev in another squash, and Mojo basically squashed, I guess that was CJ Parker or whatever.
Oh, yeah, Mojo. I don't remember Rusev being there, though. I thought I wrote everything down.
He came out and... Because there was going to be an Xavier Woods and...
he squashed Xavier Woods before the match started, because I remember saying that Xavier Woods and Brodus Clay had the same entrance music. So, yeah, Rusev, they were both there at Arrival. So if you want to play storyline continuation, yeah, Mojo's coming off a good win, and now he gets crushed by Rusev. So, I mean, Rusev is getting built up to be this monster heel. It's just one of those things where...
He wasn't in NXT very long because he came out in the Royal Rumble like maybe the next year or 2 years later.
I would have to look that up. I'm not 100% sure when he came up to the main roster. I'll just say this. No, go ahead, Tubir.
All I was going to say was I'm pretty sure he was like U.S. champion whenever I started watching again, like main roster.
They built him up right. Now, what happens when they get to the main roster is something entirely different.
Well, he had his chances. Well, they had their chances to capitalize on him, I should say. With No Way Adam Rose. That's
good.
Wow.
I just did that on the spot, guys. I just did that. It's like I'm on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, we all know who's Wayne Brady.
Cold-blooded.
Hold on, let me play it. Cold-blooded. Did you guys notice did you guys recognize one of those rosebuds?
Oh, it's my favorite part of the show. I saw Braun Strowman and Becky Lynch. Like, that was the favorite part of the entire show.
I didn't see Becky Lynch. I did see Braun Strowman.
Becky. I saw Brandy was the ring announcer.
Mm-hmm.
Randy Rhodes is the ring announcer. I saw Braun Strowman. I saw Simon Gotch. I didn't see Becky Lynch.
She was like at the very front, like jumping up and down, like kind of like an elf costume. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I bet. If you guys had to give this a letter grade, knowing what you know about NXT TakeOver today, what would you give it?
I'm gonna go with C-.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. C was the first word out of my mouth. I wasn't sure if it was going to be plus or minus. I'll go with 2 beers, C-.
I went with a D+. I guess I rank matches higher, but overall shit lower. You know, what can I do?
Okay.
Hold on. That wasn't loud enough. Hold on, I got to do it again.
This is banned from ringside.
All right, guys, we got some birthdays this week. We got El Ismo. No, wait. Man, Zach said it so smooth. How do you say it? El Hijo del Fantasma?
El Hijo del Fantasma, yeah.
Say it the way you said earlier, all smooth, though.
I don't know if I can do it on the spot like that.
Yeah, man, don't put the man on the spot.
It was real good. He's 36 this week. Big Boss Man is 57. The Rock.
R.I.P.
Dwayne Johnson. R.I.P. The Rock. Have you guys seen him lately? I haven't seen him in anything lately.
Dude, don't make me drive over there.
He's 40. He's 48. Stu Hart, still alive, I'm pretty sure, is 105. Mr. Fuji is 85. Scott Armstrong is 61. Brooke Hogan is 32. Brian Knobbs, the nasty boy, is 56. Colt Cabana.
He can't be alive.
No, Brian Knobbs is still alive. He's Hulk Hogan's best friend. They both banged Bubba the Love Sponge's wife together.
Gross. Stop.
Colt Cabana is 40. He's younger than me, motherfucker. Dakota Kai is 32 and friend of the show. The guy who provides me with the AKAs. Today is Vice, Bo Geisman's birthday. He is 40 today. Happy birthday.
He's younger than you, too.
Bo, He's younger than me, too. You good-looking son of a bitch. We're playing golf on Sunday. We will stay 6 feet away. We'll stay 6 feet away if we can handle it. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. You know what? I just played the wrong song, so now we got to talk for a little bit longer. No, you know what?
Oh, gee, God forbid. We can never do that.
No, we can never do that. You know what? I'm watching NXT UK right now, and the screen has just been Tony Storm for like the last 15 minutes. And guys,
you're saying there's a problem with this.
I'm saying that it's very good. Oh, did you guys see Jinder Mahal came back this week?
Yeah, he's probably going to take Apollo's spot, win the Money in the Bank, and then chase Drew McIntyre down for a few months.
All the people who got released and they're keeping him around? You can tell that Vince has a type, right? I know he's a former champion, but dude, that was a joke. Anyway.
I swear to God, if he wins this shit, I'm gonna be really fucking pissed.
What's a bigger return, Jinder Mahal or the Forgotten Sons?
I got a bigger return on my fucking space bar, on my fucking keyboard. This fucking.
I'd rather have the Forgotten Son make a run at this point.
Hey, everybody. We know there's a ton of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you listening to ours. For F&B Eatery, for Happy Birthday, Bo Geisman.
Happy birthday, bitch.
For Two Beer Zach Pullman. For Jason Cornelius Bell. I am Bill Vagey. Everybody, support your local weed dealers. Support your local restaurants and boo the heels. Boo!